love to just start and ask Jen, how and why did you get into this space of personal budgeting?
A budget was like the antithesis of who I thought I was. As long as I was maxing out my 401k and not getting into debt, like I was good. I didn't need to be on a budget. Like I was thankful to, really just have a high salary and start off in finance and tech where I really didn't need to worry about it. But then once I actually left my job full time and wasn't getting a paycheck for the first time in my life, I realized like how out of control I was. Like I had no idea what my run rate was. Like how much would my emergency savings last me? I would spend on things and feel like guilty or have anxiety about like, should I have done that? Like, oh well, like whatever, I'll figure it out later. And when the credit card bill would come, I'd be like, oh well, time to sell more, Google stock to like survive. And I really wouldn't know like how long each tranche would like last me. And so that finally gave me the motivation to like really get my personal finance shit together, and also to accept that just because you majored in finance accounting, you worked in finance, you're not in debt and you max out your 401k, doesn't mean that you don't need a spending plan.
What role do you play in the wealth space in your mind, and why is it important?
I play a role to be able to empower underrepresented communities, whether it's women, people of color, or first generation. I think a lot of times we don't have anyone to really talk about personal finance and wealth with. It's a taboo topic that we can't talk to a lot of people. And to be able to relate to people on a personal level in like a free of judgment, confidential space, I think is a really special place that I can play. I think I also play an interesting role in like redefining wealth. I think, society expectations are always talking about how wealth is about accumulating money or being rich. And actually, in my further work that I've done, I realized there's a big difference between being rich and being wealthy. And being rich is just tied to your income and how much money you have at that time. Having, worked previously corporate before in investment banking and also in tech, like now I realize like the worth of your time and energy. And that's not as easily quantifiable as money, but it's equally just as important.
What do you think is the most surprising or exciting or powerful thing that you've learned that you wish you knew earlier?
The most exciting thing I've learned is, a budget doesn't mean a restriction of fun or being like a cramp in your style. It actually means a lot more freedom and control, and can help you make decisions that are more informed and that you're more empowered to do so. Like, for example, I have a client who basically was in the middle of a condo purchase and then lost his job. Should I just like not do this? I'm like so scared. But then when we actually looked at the numbers and looked at what his spending plan was, like, actually we can afford this. You can actually not work for X amount of years. The first time, like, oh, this is so manual. I hate this. But the end, they're like, this is actually really fun to like go see, like actually see my progress and be in control of the numbers.
And is there a person or a company that inspires you in this space?
I would say the initial person that really inspired me was this blogger called the Luck Strategist. But basically, one, she was like a woman of color, because most, personal finance people in the personal finance space are like all guys on Reddit, anyone could really identify with. But she kind of just broke it down of like what that takes to get there. She, for me, a really normalized idea of like it's okay to spend the money and not have to like hoard it.
And what advice would you give to someone getting started?
The best time, obviously, to start was yesterday. But you know what? Like those purses were bought, like those mistakes have been made. The second best time is today. Just let go whatever baggage you're carrying of mindsets around, I'm just bad with money, or I'm just not good at math, or I'm lazy. Keeping yourself accountable, like sharing it with someone else. Usually the person you're telling is really happy that you were talking about money with them. To be able to create a space with someone like that can also really help you, I think, get started and excited by it.
What do you think the benefits of working with a coach can be for that?
Having a coach keep you accountable, I feel like is the biggest thing. In the initial like intake form, a big question that I ask is, what were you taught about money growing up? I think that's a huge impact sometimes of psychologically where you end up, and your emotions and mindsets are around money. Talk about money and like how do we reframe those things, like a budget versus a spending plan, or the idea of having to cut expenses versus maybe that's just a way to allocate your happiness, a happiness allocation. If it's not your own motivations, your own values, like it's hard to subscribe to someone else's and really, stick with it. I'm so excited for, more of us to get in this like space with regards to not only finance, investing, personal finance, but I do think that where there's more representation at the table, it will, help equalize the playing field more, the better world will be.
Couldn't agree more. Thank you, Jen, for everything that you shared.